Hi friends, hi and welcome back to the channel. Alright, so I just got done watching the latest Sister Wives drama, and I promise you this episode will probably outdo all of the absolute absurdity we've witnessed so far. And that's a big thing to say because we've had 15 seasons of jaw-dropping crap. But this one took a whole new level. We finally see Christine and Mykelti yanking the curtain back on Robyn Brown, and what they had to say about her mind games had me sitting there with my jaw on the floor. Like, I always knew Robyn was manipulative, but the way they describe it, it's like she's been managing the family like a game of psychological chess all these years, and everybody's finally catching on. Before we go into the nitty-gritty, let me just say this: I have never witnessed Christine so blunt, and Mykelti, God bless her soul, does not mince words. You can almost see years of pent-up anger just pouring out of them, and honestly, as someone who's been following this family since the start, I can't even blame them. You know how you've seen a person just gradually get dimmer and dimmer over time because someone keeps taking every situation and just turning it around to make themselves out to be the victim? Yeah, that's what this feels like. So, let's discuss what happened. Christine and Mykelti are here exposing how Robyn manipulates people, how she makes every issue poor Robyn, how she guilt-trips Kody into keeping everyone separated, and how she systematically rewrote the family history until no one could even discern what was real anymore. And you can see it in every shot. Robyn always cries at the right moment, always deflects at the right moment, and somehow everyone ends up apologizing to her, as if she's the one who's been wronged by the chaos she contributed to. Honestly, I don't know whether to scream or laugh anymore. But before I go off the deep end, I want to break this down step by step, because what Christine and Mykelti are describing isn't just typical reality TV histrionics. It's old-school manipulation dressed up as emotional weakness. And once you begin to notice it, you can't look away anymore. Okay, get a snack because we're going deep today. Let's begin at the very moment things started to fall apart. The moment Robyn's so-called good intentions began to feel more and more like control maneuvers. So this is where we begin to see the cracks appear. In every large family or group of friends, or workplace, really, there is always that one individual who appears to be the peacekeeper, the one who smiles for all to see, plays the peacemaker, plays above the drama, but sooner or later you notice the peacekeeper is not keeping peace. They're keeping control. That's the work of Robyn-type personalities. They don't yell and throw objects, they whisper. They leave small remarks that get everyone else wondering if they are a little crazy, and Christine, in my tale, begins to realize. She sees how every fight goes the same way. Someone else says sorry and the nice one has a cry. She attributes it to sensitivity at first. Then she notices the pattern, how guilt is used as a weapon. It's sly stuff. Why would you say that to me after everything I've done for you? You can't get how much this hurts me. Lines that try to sound kind but trap you emotionally until you crack. Mykelti, the perpetual half-in, half-out of the family politics, utters at last what we're all thinking. Perhaps the crying non-stop isn't sadness, perhaps it's strategy. That is when the whole dynamic reverses. Because once you begin questioning the motives of the victim player, you can't turn back. Every tear, every poor me instant now appears in a different light. It brings to mind something I witnessed during childhood. There was this neighbor who would make a whole block feel guilty if her recycling cans were toppled over. You'd be apologizing for the breeze. That's what this kind of emotional control looks like. It's invisible until you're knee-deep in. So when Christine finally calls it out, the room freezes. Nobody wants to believe the sweet, soft-spoken one could also be the manipulator. But that's exactly why it works. And that moment right there is the beginning of the end for the family. Because once trust begins to unravel, it doesn't matter how long you've been together, it just takes one thread to unravel everything. The humorous thing about families is that loyalty is noble until it becomes silence. That's exactly what begins to happen once the cracks start showing. Everyone's so accustomed to guarding the family reputation that they cease to guard themselves. Christine keeps catching herself noticing how every uncomfortable reality gets glossed over with a quick, "Let's not make this worse." And that's the code phrase for "don't rock the boat." It's astonishing how many groups operate this way. You can have an entire house full of adults acting like everything's okay because one person learned how to turn discomfort into a weapon. If you call out the problem, suddenly you're the problem. Mykelti, who's younger but observes everything, finally spits it out one night. She tells her mom, "It feels like if I say what I think, I'm betraying the family." And Christine just sighs because that's the trap they both feel guilty for needing honesty. This is how manipulation maintains power, not by yelling but by making good people believe keeping quiet is the kind thing to do. Everyone begins walking around on eggshells, lest they be the next target of the tears, the guilt or the cold shoulder. And if you ever lived through that, you know how draining it is. You begin rehearsing conversations in your head before you say them. You tell yourself, maybe I'm overreacting, but deep down you know you're not. That's where the narrator tone in this tale changes, from gossip to grief. Because observing a family implode isn't funny anymore, it's sad. The love's still there, but it's knotted up in fear, loyalty, and years of not saying what everyone already knows. So when the silence finally breaks, and it always does, it's not one giant explosion. It's a slow leak that nobody can stem. Every family that's been held together with silence eventually reaches a point where someone just can't keep going anymore. For this tale, that someone is Christine. It doesn't begin with a fight, it begins with a small, ordinary moment. Maybe they're sitting around the kitchen table pretending things are normal when a throwaway remark comes out wrong. Christine laughs, but it's that tight, nervous laugh that says, "I'm finished pretending." Then she says the one thing everyone's thinking but nobody dared to say. Why do we all have to tiptoe around one person's feelings? The room goes still. You can hear the hum of the refrigerator. For a second, nobody breathes. And then the nice one responds, not with anger but with tears. "I can't believe you'd say that after everything I've done for you." There it is, the guilt grenade. But something's different this time. Christine doesn't fold. She just looks back, calm but firm, and says, "That's the point. You do things for us, so we'll never call you out." That's when the entire illusion begins to fall apart. You can watch realization dance across every face. All those years of gentle manipulation, finally called out loud. It's messy. Someone takes off in a huff. Someone else begins cleaning the table just to have something to do with their hand. But beneath the mess, there's relief. Because the truth may hurt, but it's lighter than the constant pretending. Mykelti observes it all, caught between pride and fear. She's proud of her mom for saying what needed to be said, but she also knows this means there's no going back. Once you see the manipulation for what it is, you can't unsee it, and once you say it, the family you knew is lost. That night, Christine sits in her car for what feels like forever before driving home. She knows she didn't just begin an argument, she began an ending. But perhaps endings aren't the worst thing when the story's been stuck on the same page for too long. Once the truth gets out, it doesn't blow, it seeps. It drifts through the house like smoke after a fire, thin but omnipresent. Everyone attempts to revert to normal routines, but it can't be done. Every conversation has a double entendre now. Folks begin to form unspoken alliances. Some gravitate toward Christine, not because they're seeking drama but because they're glad someone had the guts to say it. Others huddle with the peacekeeper, half out of habit, half out of fear. And that's the weirdest part about families like this. Love and control become so intertwined that even when you know what you're seeing, you can't help but feel sorry for the person doing it. Christine is aware of it too. She's angry, okay, but there's sadness underlying it. She used to believe in that nice face, took every apology at face value. Mykelti attempts to maintain equilibrium. She plays the go-between, running back and forth to everyone, attempting to prevent tiny misunderstandings from evolving into fresh brawl. But it's draining being the bridge while both sides continue to draw away from it. You can almost witness her frustration escalating. At one point she utters, "We all keep saying let's move on, but nobody means it, we're just pretending again." And she's right. The truth has already changed the story. There's no rewinding that. The peacekeeper starts spinning new narratives. "She misunderstood me. She's just emotional," classic deflection, meant to turn a real conversation into an overreaction. But the difference now is that Christine isn't buying it, and neither are a few others. That's the shift. Once even one or two people stop playing the same script, the whole performance starts to collapse. It's awkward, uncomfortable, and completely necessary. Because sometimes a family doesn't fall apart because someone spoke up, it falls apart because everyone stayed quiet too long. The very first thing that occurs when control ceases to function is confusion. The individual who's always been able to navigate the story suddenly loses control. The emotional manipulations that previously kept everyone in check begin to fail. At first, the peacekeepers say Robyn type doesn't catch on. She attempts the same tactics that have always succeeded: tears, guilt, marathon discussions of how much she's been misread. For years they worked well enough to rein everyone back in, but not anymore. Now when she cries, Christine does not rush to soothe her. Mykelti does not say sorry. The room simply sits in silence, uneasy and authentic. It's the kind of silence that says, "We see you now." That's when the dynamic changes. Control only holds weight when people are a part of it. As soon as they stop responding, it dissolves. But here's the thing about manipulative patterns: they don't fade away quietly, they fight back. So the next phase is damage control. Suddenly there are new stories being told, little rewrites of what happened. "I never said that. You took it the wrong way. I was just trying to help." The goal isn't to fix anything, it's to blur the truth enough that everyone starts doubting their memory, and it almost works. Almost. Because even though Christine's standing her ground, there are days when she second-guesses herself. She replays the conversation in her head, asking herself if she was too cruel, if perhaps she could have phrased it differently. That's how manipulation sticks with you. It teaches you to second-guess your own clarity. But Mykelti jumps in this time. She says something to her mom that rocks the whole situation. Just because someone cries louder doesn't mean they're the one who's hurting more. That line is a pun. It slashes years of conditioning in one sentence. From there on, Christine begins to see things as they are. She begins to realize how each heartfelt discussion concludes with her feeling guilty for something she hasn't done. She begins to notice how the peacekeeper's hurt always gets priority, leaving no room for anyone else's. The rest of the family starts noticing too. One by one, individuals begin questioning quietly. Did that really occur? Why are we always apologizing? It's glacial, but it's genuine progress. And the peacekeeper knows it. She can feel control wavering, and rather than introspect, she doubles back. Now she's revising her own persona entirely. The new narrative casts her as the wrongly maligned savior, the one who attempted to keep the family intact while everyone else went against her. It's movie-esque. All manipulators' last act is self-preservation, whereas what she does not understand is that her audience has transformed. The individuals who previously purchased the performance are now viewing with open eyes. They recognize the pattern, they recognize the timing, and they recognize the performance for what it is, a performance. By this point, the family is divided in two: those who still desire peace at all costs, and those who now desire truth, even if it hurt. And that's where the story really begins, because once truth is in the room, it doesn't sit down quietly. By now the air in that house feels heavy, like everyone's inhaling the same argument repeatedly. There's no shouting now, but tension, quiet and sharp. When families divide like this, the line doesn't appear overnight, it's drawn in 100 little moments. Breakfast becomes separate, group texts fall silent, a few relatives stop attending the traditional Sunday dinners. It isn't open warfare, but it's not peace either. Christine observes who moves toward her, and who doesn't. It's not about siding with whom, not really, it's about whom is willing to stop pretending. She finds solace in the little honesty of people who just say, "Yeah, something is off." Those words don't heal, but they're proof she isn't making it up. On the other side, the peacekeeper constructs a circle of sympathy. She relies on the ones who still support her version, the ones who can't come to terms with the idea that kindness and control might coexist in the same person. Every conversation becomes damage control, long monologues about how much she is misunderstood, about how she tried so hard. It's a familiar tune, and for a while it still works. Mykelti, however, exists between both worlds. She loves them all, but she's exhausted from translating. Every time she visits one side, she hears the same question: what are they saying about me? She starts realizing how gossip becomes the language of broken families. It's not meant to spread truth, it's meant to gather loyalty. There's a moment one evening that says it all. A few of them end up in the same room for the first time in weeks. It's supposed to be casual, just coffee and small talk, but underneath the polite smiles, everyone's measuring their worth. Then the peacekeeper sighs, that practiced weary sigh, and says, "I don't know why everyone thinks I'm the bad guy." No one answers. Not because they agree, but because they've run out of energy. Silence feels safer than honesty right now. That's the stage before any big shift. Exhaustion. People don't stop fighting because they've made peace. They stop because they're tired of spinning in circles. Christine sees it and feels a strange calm. She's done chasing validation. She doesn't need everyone to believe her anymore. She just wants to live without the performance. That quiet acceptance is what starts changing things. When a manipulator loses their audience, they lose their power. The story starts to collapse under its own weight. And yet, endings are never clean. There are still dinners, birthdays, random texts that feel like olive branches, but are really just check-ins to see where everyone stands. That's what family breakups look like. Not one big fight, but a slow unwinding of habits, rituals and shared illusions. It always starts with good intention. Mykelti wanted to be the bridge, the person who could still communicate with everybody, who could maintain the peace without losing herself in the midst. But bridges are walked on from both ends. And that's what began to occur. One day she's on the phone with her mother, hearing Christine vent, not with anger, but with sadness. It's the sort of sadness that's all too common now. Christine discusses years of manipulation, the way she used to question her own memory, because things were so carefully spun. Mykelti nods silently, restraining her own opinion. She does not wish to add to the hurt. The following day, Robyn phones. Her voice is soft and delicate. She explains how difficult everything has been for her as well, how she feels attacked and misunderstood. "You know, I've only ever wanted this family to remain close," she tells him. "I've done everything I can." That line, "everything I can," lingers in Mykelti's mind for days. It's the same words she's heard year after year, the same tone, the same guilt-ridden language, that makes you wonder if you're the issue for hurting. Mykelti begins to recognize the pattern. Each time Robyn shares a story, it's one where she's the victim. Each conflict manages to turn into evidence of people being mean or envious. When Mykelti attempts to introduce how her mom is feeling, Robyn steers the conversation in another direction until Mykelti finds herself apologizing for bringing it up in the first place. That's when it clicks. This isn't about peace, it's about domination masquerading as kindness. At a dinner at her parents' house a week later, the tension finally erupts. Someone says something little, innocuous, perhaps something about moving on, and Robyn is offended. Her face crumples. She glares at Mykelti and says, "See, this is what I mean. Nobody respects me anymore, not even you." The room seizes up, everyone's eyes land on their plates. Mykelti senses her pulse thumping in her ears. For the first time she doesn't hurry to calm or explain, she simply sits there. And that quiet is so loud that it's like the loudest thing she's ever spoken. Something changes in her after that night. She begins to guard her peace like her mother once was unable to. Calls shorten, visits dwindle, not in hate, but in clarity. It's odd the way the truth doesn't strike all at the same time. It oozes in gradually, reformatting the way you perceive everything. Mykelti comes to understand she does not need to repair the family. She does not even need to choose sides. She simply needs to cease trying to delude herself that manipulation constitutes love. Christine, observing all this from afar, is both heartbroken and proud. It hurts to watch your kid navigate the same emotional labyrinth you did, but it helps to watch her discover her way out. By this point, the fractures in the family aren't just emotional, they're physical. Every interaction is stagey, as if it's a performance people are all sick of doing. And while Robyn continues to rewrite the story, fewer and fewer individuals are still reading the script. When humans lose control, they don't always blow up, sometimes they clench their fist. That's what Robyn begins to do, and everyone can sense it. First, she attempts to act relaxed. She tweets cute little things online about forgiveness and family harmony. On television, she speaks about how everyone's just misunderstood. Off-screen, however, is another story. The calls last longer, the tales taller. Each iteration of the truth curves just so that she becomes the one who's holding it all together. It's the same strategy she's employed forever. Half admission, half acting. She owns just enough blame to appear humble, then shifts to blame, always coming back to how much she's endured. And for a moment, it works. People pity her. People tell her she's tough. They assure her that the others will see reason. but gradually, her audience dwindles. Mykelti ceases to answer every call. Janelle becomes polite but distant. Even Kody, who used to repeat back verbatim everything she said, looks lost, uncertain. He's accustomed to being the focal point, not a supporting character in Robyn's monologue about how difficult her life is. That's when Robyn starts unraveling. You can almost glimpse it in her interviews. The tense way her eyes flick, the way her voice constricts when she says, "I just wish everyone would see what's really going on." What's really going on is harder to conceal now. Christine has begun speaking, not out of vengeance but her words are calculated, measured, the kind that hurt more because they ring so true. She tells little anecdotes, small things that don't read as sensational, but when you add them together, you get the pattern: the guilt trips, the isolation, the quiet revision of family history. Fans catch on too. Online chatter moves from sympathy to suspicion. People start pulling up old clips, rewatching old episodes with new eyes. The things that once seemed emotional now seem staged. The tears that brought sympathy before now taste like strategy. And Robyn knows it. She reads the threads, the comments, the speculation. Every headline is like an accusation she can't scrub away. That's the risk of constructing a narrative too meticulously. After the illusion is broken, everyone observes the strings. Inside the family, the tension comes to a boiling point. Robyn starts to hold more talks with anyone still speaking to her, trying to reframe everything. "You don't understand what Christine's done," she says. "You don't know how much I've been through." But each conversation pushes more people away. It's not what she's saying, it's the exhaustion in hearing it again and again. Kody stands beside her, but even he looks uneasy. There's something hollow in his support now, as if he's memorizing words he doesn't really believe. In that way, power expires, not with a great showdown, but with silent uncertainty creeping through the folks you once dominated. Robyn feels it happening. For the first time, she's not driving the story, she's responding to it. And when someone like her begins losing command of the narrative, they typically discover some new strategy for garnering attention. When control begins to slip, some people back away, others dig in. Robyn goes all in. It begins innocently enough. A couple of emotive interviews, a tactfully phrased update about being misunderstood. She gets into vulnerability, sharing about sleepless nights, her broken heart, and how she has been betrayed by the people she loved most. On the surface it's sounding like agony. To those close to her though, it comes across as a performance for the cameras, not the family. Christine finds out through a friend. Mykelti is watching it go viral on the internet. The message is unmistakable. Robyn is not only attempting to share her version of events, she's attempting to rewrite everybody else's. In one video, Robyn claims she's heartbroken that Christine has poisoned the family against her. She brushes away a tear, voice shaking just hard enough to be believable, and then she adds, "I just wish that people could realize how hard I tried to make this family work." And that's when it becomes clear. This has nothing to do with reconciliation, it has everything to do with reputation. The response is varied. Some fans are duped, others aren't, but within the family, that interview comes crashing down like a thunderclap. Mykelti calls her mom afterwards, incensed. "She's lying on camera again," she says. Christine just sighs. She's attempting to garner sympathy. Let her. The truth no longer needs to be defended. Still, the harm radiates. A few family members, the ones who prefer to avoid the drama, begin to question whether perhaps Robyn's being blamed too much. That's how manipulation functions. Not by winning over everyone, but by sowing tiny seeds of doubt. Then, just when it appears to be dying down, Robyn takes it further. She streams a live stream, raw, emotional, shaky cam and all. She speaks to her audience directly, indicating that she's tired of the hate, and ready to tell the truth once and for all. But that truth she tells is not truth at all. It's a string of half-statements and emotional spin. She maintains she never desired to be Kody's sole wife. She complains she's been made to feel like an outsider from day one. Then she drops a hint, subtly but suggestively, that Christine's departure wasn't as innocent as everyone perceives. That's where she crosses the line. Wide shots of the live stream are posted within a few hours on social media. Fans scrutinize every word, contrasting it with past clips, picking out the contradictions. Others draw out receipts, past interviews, court records, public documents. The fissures in her narrative begin to appear, and the internet devours a teardown. The following day, Christine trends once more, not because she replied, but because she didn't. Her silence says more than any response. Meanwhile, Robyn realizes that she has erred. What was supposed to garner sympathy has now become a hurricane beyond her control. Even Kody appears shaken. He stands with her in public, but in private he's beginning to realize that her perpetual defensiveness keeps the flames of passion burning. And the rest of the family, they've quit playing her game. They're finished explaining, undefined finished defending, undefined finished pretending. That's when the unraveling starts to happen, not in chaos, but in cold, unmistakable distance. If you've been watching Kody long enough, you're aware that he doesn't deal with losing control well. For years he was the sun that everyone orbited around. Now the orbit's shattered, and the silence from his other wives stings more than any argument ever could. After Robyn's livestream debacle, the drama hits quick. Messages cease to arrive, calls go unanswered. Even some of the kids, the ones who used to defend him, start pulling back. They don't say much, they just stop showing up. That's how people leave when they've been hurt too many times. Not with a bang, but with quiet absence. For the first time in a long while, Kody can't spin it. No one's buying his excuses. Not Christine, not Janelle, not even the fans. Online, folks are finally speaking aloud what everybody's been thinking. Kody exchanged his family for one relationship that's now deteriorating too. He spends most of his time walking around that huge house, attempting to justify it. To him it's always about loyalty, his interpretation of it at least. He reminds himself that he's keeping Robyn safe, protecting what remains of their marriage, but secretly, he knows it's not as simple. He's not keeping it from her, he's keeping it from the vision of himself that she reflects back to him, and that reflection is beginning to shatter. Robyn's worry has skyrocketed since the backlash. She's on social media all the time, sometimes sobbing, sometimes seething. Each new headline is like confirmation that she's the victim. Kody attempts to soothe her, but even his own patience is wearing thin. He's spent no night, late, just the two of them in the living room. She's angry, ranting that Christine's destroyed everything. Kody listens a while and then finally says, "Perhaps it's not entirely her fault." Robyn goes cold. You sense the air shift. He doesn't shout. He simply says it softly, as if to himself, but as soon as the words are out of his mouth, he knows there is no going back. For years he has repeated her rendition of the events, that Christine walked out on the family, that everyone conspired against them, unjustly. To say it aloud that perhaps it is not all Christine's fault, is like transgressing a sacred law. Robyn doesn't scream, she freezes. Remote, her eyes tighten, her voice changes. She says he's starting to sound like them, and that's the start of a new silence, one that isn't quiet, only hollow. Days pass, they both still occupy the same space, but the bond's unraveled. Every conversation is like tiptoeing across eggshells. Kody begins to spend more time in the garage, tinkering with projects that don't require attention. He tells her he needs space, but what he actually needs is escape. In the meantime, Christine keeps moving on. She's constructing a life that appears lighter, more peaceful. Children come over. There is laughter in her home again. And that's what hurts Kody really. Not revenge or anger, but her peace. He sees it for what it is finally. She's free, and he's trapped in the mess he assisted in creating. That's the thing about control. As soon as you lose it, you see it was never love holding everything together. It was fear. Every family has that one moment when things can't go back to the way they were. For the sister wives family, it occurs one day while they are in quiet mode when Robyn determines she's had enough of being drawn as the villain. She informs Kody she's going to make things right, woman to woman. He is hesitant, says perhaps it is not the best thing to do, but Robyn's mind is set. She feels that if she can just sit down and talk to Christine, she can straighten things out. In her mind it's not a confrontation, it's a closure, but that's how Robyn always rationalizes control. Christine consents to a meeting, unwillingly, not in anyone's home, not in secret, but in a neutral environment, a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. She brings a calm energy with her, the kind that only comes when you've already accepted you're not there to argue. When Robyn walks in, the tension walks in with her. She's composed at first, polite smile, carefully chosen words. She begins to speak of miscommunications and misunderstandings. Christine merely listens, nodding, not speaking. Then Robyn says, "You've been lying to people about me, and I can't continue to pretend that you didn't ruin this family." That's when Christine lifts her head and gives her eyes. Clearly, the words hit their mark. You can sense almost the facade crumbling in Robyn. Her voice cracks, trembling but firm. "You don't know what I've been through. You made everyone hate me." Christine doesn't blink. She simply responds, "People don't hate you. They're just tired of being blamed." For an instant there is silence. Robyn glances around the cafe as if she'd prefer someone else to intervene, someone to affirm she's the wronged one. But there is no crowd here, no cameras, no relatives to influence, just two women and a truth that can't be bent no more. Robyn's eyes brim with tears. She tells Christine, "I tried to love you all." Christine replies quietly, "Perhaps, but love doesn't come with a scorecard." That line shatters the final pieces of the lie. Robyn rises from her chair, takes her purse, says something about being done trying, and departs. Christine remains for a bit longer, gazing out the window, allowing the silence to envelop her. It's not victory she experiences, it's release. When the tale returns to Kody, he's at a loss as to what to believe. Robyn's account is impassioned, Christine's is brief and matter-of-fact, but even he knows which one is truth-telling. The family catches snippets and clues. Mykelti calls her mom that evening, inquiring if she's all right. Christine assures her that she is, truly is. She's still struggling with the story in her head. She says to her daughter, "But I don't have to struggle with it for her anymore." And that's what power looks like when it changes hands, not loud or dramatic, just quiet confidence. Robyn might have gone to take back control, but she left knowing she never had it in the first place. For the first time in years, Christine's free, and Robyn knows it. Having that meeting, something within Robyn changes, but not how she had hoped. Rather than feeling closure, she feels trapped. The narrative she's been telling herself, the one in which she's the hurt peacemaker, doesn't ring true anymore. Christine did not yell, did not accuse, did not even fight. She just told the truth, and that's what hurts the worst. When Robyn returns home, Kody knows immediately something is wrong. She's pacing, her eyes are red, her voice is shaking. She says Christine ambushed her, that she twisted everything, but Kody has heard enough of these revisions to be able to tell the difference between hurt and spin. He asks softly, "What did she say?" Robyn pauses, and then she recites Christine's lines. "I just stopped living in your version of the family." Kody freezes. It's a straightforward line, but it hits him somewhere he's been trying to avoid hitting for years. For a few days they hardly speak. Robyn retreats upstairs, scanning comments, searching for evidence that people are still in her corner. Kody spends less time outdoors, pacing the grounds, gazing at the house that was going to stand for stability, but now it looks like a monument to all that he has lost. The drama continues to escalate, until one evening it reaches its boiling point. Robyn begins to go after Christine again. How she's manipulative, how she's alienated the kids from them, how she's destroyed everything. Kody hears it but doesn't flinch. When she stops, he speaks softly. "You can't blame Christine forever. She didn't do this by herself." It's the first time he's ever spoken the words out loud. Robyn's expression turns hard. "Now you believe her?" "I'm saying maybe I should have listened more to all of them." That's the end of the conversation. Robyn storms out, closing the door. Kody does not follow. He sits there alone in a living room that is much too large for the silence of one person. That evening he begins to replay the past few years. The fights, the loneliness, the way everyone gradually stopped believing him. He realizes how frequently he defended Robyn unquestioningly, how he made every fight between them into betrayal. And for the first time he asks himself whether perhaps the family didn't break up around him, but because of him. In the meantime, Christine's home is warm and full. There's laughter, children, commotion, real life occurring once more. She isn't gloating, she's living. It's a quiet sort of happiness that doesn't have to prove itself. The contrast is brutal. At Robyn's place, the distance widens. They share the same roof again, but it's all tenuous. Robyn's tears no longer work. Her words don't hit home as they once did. Kody is being polite, calm, and distant, as if he's already gone halfway. On countless occasions, Robyn's ability worked because she was the focal point, because she turned emotion into power. But when Kody doesn't respond, what slips is her control. She can feel it, and it terrifies her. That's how control ends, not with a fight, but with indifference. And for Kody, indifference might be the closest thing to peace he's felt in a long time. Time has a way of softening noise. The shouting fades first, then the tension, until what's left is just the truth, bare and unpolished. That's where the Brown family is today, not whole, not healed, but honest for the first time in years. Christine does not say much about Robyn anymore. She does not have to. The story has already been told. Everyone has seen enough to know what really went down, how control was masked as love, how silence was confused with peace. Her new home is less spacious, less complicated. There's a sense of warmth in each corner, mismatched pieces of furniture, the sound of children laughing, music playing in the background. She's created a space that now feels like her again. Occasionally one of the older kids stops by for a meal. They speak, they tease, they recall the good old days without resentment. It's not ideal, but it's authentic. Christine is always saying she's not seeking revenge. I don't want anyone to hurt, she explains to Mykelti. I just wanted to stop pretending. That one sentence tells it all. While that Robyn's home is subdued, too still, gone are the cameras, slowed the interviews, and withered the sympathy she pursued on the internet. With no one left to persuade, there is no audience. The quiet she had previously described as peace is now an emptiness. Kody gets through his days as a man learning to live without a script. He still speaks of family, but now with a twinge of regret. Sometimes he calls the children, sometimes they pick up. The calls are brief but courteous, baby steps towards something that someday will resemble forgiveness. He doesn't speak of Robyn nearly as often anymore. When he does, he's not angry. He's exhausted. He's come too late to understand that loyalty founded on fear is fleeting, that guarding one person at the sacrifice of all others isn't strength, it's capitulation. And as for Robyn, she remains torn between pride and guilt. She needs to repair her reputation, but there's no story to manipulate anymore. Others have moved on, and that could be the most difficult to hear of all. Not that she lost, but that the world ceased playing along. The story of the family concludes, not with a big reunion, but with gentle acceptance. All have moved on, each discovering what peace costs. Christine has said in an interview, healing isn't loud, it's waking up one day and realizing you don't have to explain yourself anymore. And perhaps that is the true closure here. The family who once existed by rule and image, finally escaped the constraints of its own expectations. The hurt did not go away, but it no longer held them hostage. Christine's laugh now fills the type of silence that once felt so oppressive. It's no longer the silence of distance, it's the noise of peace. And somewhere in the midst of all that destruction and reconstruction, the truth at last settles. Love never required forewarning. It only required honesty, something the cameras never quite managed to capture, but life did in the end.